Welcome back to Boy Band Break, where we encourage you to take a break from your day and join us in some great boy band conversation. As always, my name is Diane.
I'm Chinzia.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Lydia, a.k.a. Mama Lou.
And don't forget, guys, you got to join us in the conversation. Leave us some comments. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like about this episode. We would love to hear from you. And hey, maybe you'll win a wonderful prize.
Yay!
Go to our Facebook page to find out more.
Yes.
So before we start our next episode, we have a birthday coming up on July 1st. From Why Don't We? It's Jack Ivory. He'll be 20 years old.
Avery.
Sorry, I said it in a fun way.
Okay.
But his
Sounded
name
like
is
Ivory.
And what
It's
day is his
Avery.
birthday?
What did I say? July 1st, 1999.
Oh, Canada Day, baby.
Is he
He's
of
not
the
the Canadian
Avery
one, right?
fortune of office labels?
Maybe.
I don't know, but
He's not the Canadian from that boy band,
Okay.
pretty much.
cool.
Why
All
don't
right,
we?
well, happy birthday,
Jack.
Jack.
Happy birthday. And happy Canada Day to all of our fellow Canadians.
Yay!
It's not technically today, it's tomorrow. But
Hope you
by
have
the
a great
time we
one.
post this and you listen to it, it might be Canada Day. So happy Canada Day.
Ooh, can we use the picture from last Canada Day as our picture?
We sure can.
Yes, we
Lydia's
will.
not in it.
Oh.
Should we add her? Like, do you know how to add her?
You do
Like
a
Photoshop?
shitty Photoshop where I'm
Photoshop?
like floating in the air.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, cool. Moving on. Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.
What are we chatting about today?
Well, in honor of Canada, I thought we would talk about Canadian boy bands.
Yay!
Now, if you are American, you are like, what Canadian boy bands are there? But let me tell you, my friends, or maybe you're from some other part of the world and you're thinking, what Canadian boy bands are there? Let me tell you, my friends, there are some. I was gonna say
more than
I was gonna
some.
say many, but there's not many.
Like four?
There's
Four?
some.
5 or 6 maybe that I know
so
of.
more than some.
So we have already talked about the Moffats in our brother boy band episode. So
Bro
I don't want
bands.
to talk about them too much, but they are
Probably the most successful.
yes
Yeah, agreed.
of the Canadian boy bands.
Yes.
5 brothers. 5.
4. There are 4 of them.
Scott, Clint, Dave, and Bob.
Scott is
Clearly
the
I'm a
older
huge
one,
Moffat
and
fan.
then
Think 5.
the triplets are a year younger than Scott. And of the triplets, 2 of them are identical, and that's Bob and Clint. And then Dave is the non-identical triplet.
Who might be gay.
He is gay, yes.
Oh, congratulations.
We've clearly
So-
established this.
If you wanted to hear more about the Moffats and more about some of our experiences with the Moffats, definitely go back and check out our Bro Bands episode to hear more about that. So we'll go into some of the other boy bands. I mean, I think we've mentioned some of these throughout, this podcast.
Random conversations.
Yeah, but we haven't really gone too much into them. So the first one I thought we would talk about is Soul Decision.
Yay!
They were probably the next most successful of the Canadian boy bands.
Yes.
They had a song.
Kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
They had so many songs. It was
And-
fantastic.
Yeah,
Did we talk about them too a little bit?
we haven't really gone too much into them. Now, Soul Decision is just 2 guys, right?
3.
Okay, I
Why
clearly
do you
know
keep
a
getting all
lot
these
about
numbers
these
wrong?
What's going on?
people.
Maybe you need to go back and listen to
Oh
our
man.
podcast.
Okay, so there's 3 of them. They were
I would like to point out
Wow.
right now on the record that Sophia thinks I am mean to her.
I'm getting you back for all
I
the
have this on
meanness.
recording. Anyways,
So anyways, according to Wikipedia, there was actually 6 at some point, but the 3 main ones when they were famous is obviously Trevor Guthrie. He was like the lead singer, and he had some solo success with that Armin van Buuren song.
yeah.
That I
This
cannot-
is what it feels
like yes. David Bowman, so he was like the brunette, and then Ken Luco, and he was, I believe, blonde, and he played keyboard as well. So yes, and they were active between 93 and 2005, but probably more towards the late 90s is when they were more famous.
Yes.
Past members were James Reed, Stephen McGrath, and Tino Zolfo.
So tell me, what do you think about Soul Decision?
Love Soul Decision.
I thought they were pretty good.
They were I like the blonde guy. He's
Yes,
cute.
I also like the blonde.
So they had 2 albums. No. Yeah.
He's the only guy that I remember. To be
Same.
honest.
Yeah. Same.
Did I say my Soul Decision story before?
I don't think
I
so.
feel
That's
like
why
you
we're.
have. No.
I don't
Can
remember.
you say the cliff notes of it?
So we were at the Hamilton concert, and I had those concert pants with like the big open leg
You
thing.
definitely haven't
Okay,
sold
no,
the story.
no.
Okay, so this is honestly like one of my favorite like concert moments ever. So we ended up getting second row, but the way that the venue was set up, because we were at the end of the row, the first row ended early, so we were technically first row on the side.
So was there like seats?
Yeah, it was seats.
Oh,
So it was at Hamilton Place, or I don't know what it's called now. They change their name all the time. But yeah, so it was like a seated theater, whatever. And it was me and Gina and Olivia. And did you come too, Lydia?
No.
Okay, so we were
no
actually
for
we went
me.
to like Gene Machine to get tickets. Like they sold tickets apparently there.
This was a Soul Decision concert.
So it was a Soul.
year
So
was this?
we had I want to say like 2000-ish. So Soul Decision, we had seen them open for NSYNC in Toronto and stuff like that. So if I'm not 100% crazy, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So anyway, so we were there. We're at this concert, and they actually also had Soul Decision candy.
Oh yes.
So when I worked at a Chanel, they had like this party packagers had it, and you remember those like lifesaver books that you would get for Christmas, and it had a whole bunch of like lifesavers. So this was like a knockoff lifesavers called, I think it was like Beach Wood or something. So they're like crappy lifesavers, but on it they had like Soul Decision on it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm going to pick this up. So I was like, I was going to the concert, so I snuck it into the concert, and then at the concert I actually like held it up. And the one guy was looking at me like, what the heck is that? So I don't think they actually knew they were on these knockoff lifesavers. It was like a promo thing. So, okay, fine. So then it's the middle of the concert, and they were changing guitars or something. Dave was changing. And so Trevor's just standing at the front of the stage. So, and everyone is standing up, but they're standing at their seat. So there's probably like a good 4 or 5 feet from this front of the stage, like the front of the seats to the stage. And the stage is probably about 4 or 5 feet up. So it's not like too high. So then I'm like, everyone's just standing there awkwardly. So I was like, meh, take my shot. So I had the candy and I had my Sharpie, and I like walked to the center stage where Trevor was. And I was like, hey buddy, can you sign this? And he's like, yeah, of course. So he starts signing it. So then Dave like looks at me, he's like, Trevor, what are you doing? He's like, I'm signing an autograph. And he's like, we're in the middle of a concert. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So he gives it back to me. He's like, here you go. I'm like, thank you. And then I go back to my seat. And as second I get back to my seat, everybody in the front row now rushes the stage. So they're all up against the stage, and security guards like looking at me, and I just like shrug or whatever.
You started.
And it was like the funniest thing ever. It was such a good show. So I had a lot of good time at that show. So there you go. That's my Soul Decision story.
Great times. Great times. Now all the security guards at Hamilton Place hate Shinsia.
Yes.
I was respectful and nice, so whatever. It's good. You got to take your shots, people. You got to whatever. If it's the middle of the show, go for it. I think I also had a sign that said like play Summer of '69 because they did a cover of it. And I remember seeing them at the NSYNC concert doing that. So we were like, yeah, cool. So
Do you want to talk about what some of their major hits were?
Oh,
Sure.
one thing I would like to say, if that's okay, their name used to be called
Indecision.
So that's fun.
So
Did
if you
not know
listen
that.
to the song Faded, there's a rapper
Faded,
Thrust.
but I feel
Alright. Think about making my move.
Move tonight.
So as they're singing that, at the one part in the rap, he's like indecision with the best because they were. But then at that point, I think somebody else had that name.
Yes.
So they ended up changing their name, but they didn't want to get this guy to re-record that, so they just threw it into the Soul Decision
And their
album.
manager is the one that came up with the name Soul Decision.
Oh, okay, very cool. Any particular reason or anything, or?
She's reading the Wikipedia page as we speak.
So
Stop.
yeah.
There's
So
a name
anyways,
conflict with another American band is what it says here.
okay. So like the main songs that they had, "Ooh, It's Kind of Crazy," "Faded," "Crazy," which I think we were almost in the music video for that, but I had to work that day, so I couldn't go because we had heard that. So, "No One Does It Better,"
No one does.
"Is It Better Than You," "Gravity."
I blame
Gravity.
gravity. She played this song too much.
I
Okay,
can
it
tell
was-
by your voice that you don't like this.
That was horrible. Okay.
It was horrible.
put the blame on Gravity, Lydia.
That was you. You like.
It's good.
I'm
It's a
on
good
repeat,
song. It's a
man.
good. That album is a very good album. I
You
really
didn't change
enjoyed
the
it.
lyrics to that song, so
I
Lydia
did
can
not
hate it.
change it. No.
If you're wondering,
Chris.
like, basically, I think Faded and Ooh, It's Kind of Crazy were like the singles, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and Gravity and Let's Do It Right, which in my fanfic was the song that Chris and I got married to
Aw.
from
Because it all
NSYNC.
leads back to Chris.
They didn't sing. She's kind of some kind of wonderful. That was somebody else.
Nope, that was Sky.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think Sky would be considered a boy band.
I couldn't tell. Oh, sorry.
Then
they were
I guess
formed
they had a
in
couple of other
Vancouver.
songs that they released in 2004 that really didn't weren't critically successful. So Cadillac Dress, Kiss the Walls, and Hypnotize. So there you go.
So yes,
The album, the really good album is No One Does It Better. Is the name of the song, the album.
excellent.
There you go.
Anyone else have any Soul Decision?
We keep
anecdotes?
seeing-
They were formed in Vancouver.
Yes, and they performed, I want to say like 2 years ago at the PNE, which is the CNE in Vancouver. And they
That
hinted
information
this
is
year.
not on the Wikipedia.
So they hinted this year that they were getting back together. So we're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh, first of all, I think this is the.
We were not saying that.
Shinzia was
said,
very
Oh my
excited.
God, I'm so excited.
They played Faded on the Backstreet Boys cruise, and I was dying. I was like, oh my God. And then these two are looking at me like I'm nuts. And I was just like, whatever, it's a good
Sing
song.
along, whatever.
I have a fun note about Soul Decision.
Yes, please share.
They have their Facebook has their phone number, and you can call them. And I've tried to, and she's like, "Hang up the phone."
Okay, first of all, we don't even know whose phone number that is.
I
And I'm
think
thinking
it's
it's, but
David's.
I don't think so. I think it's their manager
You never
guy.
know unless you try to call.
I was thinking we
shoot
just
your shots,
email them.
Cynthia.
Yeah, you got to shoot your
Okay,
shot.
Soul Decision. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to tweet them, and we want to have you on the show. And we just today figured out how to use the phone system at the radio station that we broadcast from. So,
And you could ask, is this your real phone number?
So here's our number.
so
call me maybe. Another
point being
Canadian,
is they were
but
trying to get back
not
together again
boy
this
band.
year, and I don't know what happened. It just kind of fizzled. So,
Nobody is interested to have them
Chinzia
anymore?
is interested.
Okay, but
So,
you can only on one fan.
well,
so-
you can. So, anyways, very much would like to have them on the show. Anything else you'd like to talk about Soul Decision about?
Nope, I think that's pretty good.
Okay, let's move on
facts-wise.
then. Probably the next most successful, maybe you've heard of them, Canadian boy band is B44.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
If you get down on me, I'll get down on you.
Similar to the Moffats, also all brothers.
No.
Just two are brothers.
Twins. What's with all the twins in
Twins are cool.
Gotta
Fucking
make
twins
some
are
money,
awesome,
you know?
man.
No, but why the Canadian boy bands? You got the triplets and the Moffats, and they got twins in B44.
Maybe
Yes.
we just have very
These
good
guys
fertility.
were
So Ryan and Dan Kowarski, and then the other guy who's not a twin is Ohad
What a name.
Einbinder. I'm sorry, I don't know how to.
Einbinder.
So my mom came up with a brilliant thing this morning, which I'm pretty sure is probably the reason why. She's like, B44, how many of them are in there? There were like 3. She's like, 3 is before 4. So maybe that's why they're called
Mind
that.
equals blown.
Yes, and they're
she
from
figured it
Toronto
out. That's
area.
They're from Woodbridge. Let's be more specific.
Oh, okay.
So if you're not from the greater Toronto area and you're like, why is that? Why are you saying they're from Woodbridge? Woodbridge is the place where a lot of Italian people live,
I was gonna say.
and
They're not
therefore, this is the place. It was like the Jersey Shore of Toronto.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
now I understand where you're going.
So
I'm like, I don't know what you-
these guys, even though they're clearly not Italian, were like big time Gino looking dudes.
Hand puka shell.
Yeah, what is wrong with
exactly.
these people, man?
With the spiky Pauly D type hair, but
Frosted
frosted tips. And yeah, that's what they look like, or that's what they looked like. I don't think that's
Do you
what they
have
look
a
like
updated
anymore.
Picture?
I don't. Well, we follow Ryan on social media, so
And they were like minorly popular. Like they had, that.
Get down.
so
Yeah.
get
They
down
were
and,
the raunchy group.
and then Go Go, which Sophia and I watched this morning, and we're like, oh my God, I forgot about this video. First of all, I love
that
their
obviously
pants.
wasn't as big of a hit. They were kind of a one-hit wonder.
Yes,
In a way,
in a
yeah.
ways. Then after Go Go, they also had Everybody and Ball and Chain. So I feel like Ball and Chain was kind of like the last one that we kind of heard on like hit list and stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely Get Down is their number 1 hit single there.
Yeah. But so they had some
And that-
minor success, but then this was the 90s. Like boy bands are being churned out non-stop, and there was so many and there was so much competition. So it was obviously very difficult for any boy band to be successful. So they had their one hit, they had their 15 minutes in the sun, and then not that they needed to get any more of a tan, but and then they kind of started to fade away. But the fun part that I always think about B44 was like, this is the days when like everyone would talk on like MSN Messenger. Like this is how you would communicate with your friends.
Yeah.
And these dudes would like add all their fans on MSN Messenger. So they felt like so cool because they're like, oh, I'm talking to B44. Yeah, like I have the twins on MSN Messenger. And I'd be like, okay, that's cool.
I met them once. We were in Toronto. Okay, we saw them at Psychoblast because they headlined Psychoblast, but then Energy Radio was doing something and we were there, but I was running late to get there. So I got there at the very end of the meet and greet. And this is the twins, I think, had already left or were about to leave. And Ohad comes by. And no reason whatsoever, because I am 5'2.5" and he is taller than me, grabs my elbow and kind of uses me as leverage to like hoist himself over me to look out into the hallway, and then just walked away. And I was like, what just happened right now? It was just like, am I a wall? Like, I don't really know what's going on. So that's my only like time meeting B44. But and my friend Sam dated one of them as well, because they would go on to online dating as well.
Is this Sam Cook?
It is, yes.
Oh,
and
go listen to her podcast as well.
Yes, go listen to hers. And I asked her which one she dated, and she said, I don't know.
Oh, ow.
Because they're identical
I assume
twins.
it's one of the twins then.
Yes, I think she eventually remembered which one it was, but at the time she wasn't sure which one she was talking to. So I'm like, oh, that's great. And also after, so it looks like they also got a little bit of success in Germany as well after Canada. And then after Ohad left them, the twins went together and they made another band called Ryan Dan, all one word. And they released 2 albums, so one in 2007 and one in 2014. And if I'm not mistaken, Ryan either produces or manages Dan Talevsky.
Yeah, he's involved somehow.
So, yes.
If you're wondering, sorry, Lydia, I'm going to let you say that in a second, but if you're wondering where you know Dan Talevsky from,
I was gonna ask.
He opened for Nick Carter on his all-Canadian leg of his all-American tour.
I was just going to say that there's a famous YouTuber called H3H3, and he did an episode entirely about B44.
Oh, really?
Where he wanted to like actually get into, like, he was just like, I was so obsessed with this band. He's like, I would have like made love to them. Like,
oh my God.
It's like such a funny episode. So anyway, so like he lives in New York, so he went around trying to like make himself a B44 member. So like he went to like an underground spray tan booth. He bought like the puka shells. He got his hair like frosted, and then he like met up with like a sound producer, and he's like, I need to make a song that's similar to this. So like, can you like? He's like, because like he broke down like B44. Like he's like, okay, so like you needed like this really sexy song, but like it was going out to like girls, so you couldn't say like super sexy. So there was like hidden. So he's like, so I need to like have a song that's kind of like that. So then like he recorded this song. He's like, take me back to my jizz koozie. It was just like epic, and he's just like, oh, I've always wanted to be on B44, and it was like, it's a really funny episode. If you want.
Sorry, what is this?
H3H3. This is Ethan and Ela. So, but it was obviously an Ethan heavy episode. So
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely give that a watch.
And that is to make fun of the line in the B44 song Get Down when there's, we'll make you come tonight over to my house. Like, oh,
So
wow,
naughty.
you guys create
Oh, B44.
that video with that little kid with the, I'm like, why is this little kid in this video about blowjobs? I don't
that
know.
Whole video, like,
It's
so
pretty funny. And one of my other favorite viral things that happened was there was a band, a high school band that did like, they danced to it.
Yeah, they did like a whole recreation.
They did a recreation of it for like, I guess like a talent show or
Yeah.
something, and it was like spot on. It was fantastic. We
And
can
then,
find
like,
that video.
He
We'll
jumps
post it.
into the crowd. Like,
At one
literally
point,
jumps.
it's
beautiful.
hilarious. It's so good. Yeah. So yeah, no, I think that they're pretty fun. And according to Wikipedia, not sure if this is true, apparently Ryan and Dan own or must have owned a dog boarding camp just north of Toronto called Camp Cookstown.
Aw, cute.
Interesting.
Strange. Yeah, so, and it also says that they do a lot of songwriting as well, and they've written songs for Blake McGrath, Danny Fernandez, and Tyler
Another Canadian
Medeiros.
artist.
Yeah, so, yeah, interesting.
Cool. All right. Moving on to a Canadian band that I feel like we've mentioned a few times but haven't really got too into, and that is Three Deep.
Yeah.
3 Deep, the two hotties and the one not so hottie.
Okay,
So
you know, into
into
you,
you,
no matter what I do, I'm so into you. I'm so into you, baby.
So, if you're wondering about Three Deep
It's
is
a band that Diane knows nothing about.
a
You
band
did not
that
realize
okay,
that was a band.
No, Okay, again, I would like to reiterate. I realized Three Deep was a band. I did not realize CJ was in the band. Okay.
Oh, ow, there's like 3 people.
Okay,
in it.
so first of all,
Okay, first of all, let's talk about Three Deep is comprised of 2 soap opera stars.
Yes.
so Josh Morrow,
Yes.
and he
That's-
was from,
for some reason I was
Young
gonna
and the
say Jason.
Restless.
and Eddie Cibrian.
He was also on Young and the Restless.
I thought he was in the other one
But he was-
Eddie Cibrian was on Sunset Beach and Third Watch.
Yes.
as well. And the Canadian was CJ Hewer? Hewer,
No, but
Huyer.
Isn't Josh Morrow also Canadian?
No, he's from Oklahoma.
Oh.
No. So I don't really know if
I
they
thought one of the
technically
soap guys was Canadian also.
American actor. So Josh Morrow played Nicholas Newman on Young and the Restless. And he's American. And Eddie Cibrian is also American.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
CJ is the only thing that makes us Canadian.
So they barely count as a Canadian boy band.
They're
But
1/3 Canadian. I feel like that
technically,
counts.
Whatever. Okay, so I knew that Three Deep was a band. I knew that it was the 2 soap
Do you know what CJ stands for, guys?
No.
Oh, can I guess?
Yes.
So,
Cedric Joshua?
No.
Never mind. Okay, go ahead.
Chris Jacob.
Oh.
Two of my
you're meant
favorite.
to marry this
oh,
man.
because
man.
you have a Chris in there.
And a Jacob. Well, here they say it's an American Canadian boy band, so I feel like we should go with that. So,
I don't know.
so let's preface the fact that Eddie Cibrian and Joshua Morrow are actors and not really singers.
How did this happen? Like, who put
Okay, wait, let
Must
me
have
finish
found
what I
them
was
on
saying,
Young
though.
and the Restless.
So I knew
Sorry, go
that
ahead.
Three Deep was a band, and I knew that there was 2 soap guys, and no offense to CJ, an ugly guy. Okay, so then,
I would prefer the term regular looking guy.
but I
I said not
obviously
so hottie.
paid no attention to the third guy because I was like, oh look, 2 good looking guys.
But in their
They were
defense,
hot.
they are ridiculously good looking because they're soap stars.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it just
so then-
makes
Okay.
Forgive me for not looking at CJ or knowing anything about him. So then, completely out of context and not knowing anything about this dude, CJ is friends with Howie from the Backstreet Boys.
correct.
Okay? So CJ is at a lot of random, like, Backstreet things, especially if Howie's involved. So I just thought that this guy was a friend of Howie's, like a manager or like someone that he knew from the industry. I didn't realize that he was the guy from 3D. Even if I knew that guy's name was CJ, I just didn't make the connection that it was the same person.
To be fair,
And
he
then-
looks a lot different now than he did back then.
Yes,
looks about the same.
exactly. He was much
He looks the same.
thinner back then.
He looks the same. He's
And
lovely.
then
He was skinnier than
Shinzio's like, you thought I was a fan of a random man.
So when Howie was doing his CD release in Canada, I was at Much Music. We snuck in. Well, they almost didn't let us in because we were too old. I'm like, listen, Howie's older than us. We should
Stop
go
this
in.
ageism.
Yes.
Ageism. So we were in there, and so after Three Deep, so Three Deep was around 98 to 2001. So then afterwards, I guess he somehow met Howie. They became friends. They managed some bands together, including Neverest, which was a Canadian band, and somebody else. I can't remember who. Anyways, well, George Nozuka. That's where I met him at the lunch. I had lunch with Howie and CJ years ago because I won that. Anyways, long story short, CJ's there. So Howie was like randomly talking. And he's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And my friend or business partner, CJ, I'm like, woo! And like, it's dead silent because Howie's in the middle of talking. And I just friggin' like wooed like a knob. And then everyone's like looking at me like, what the fuck What's wrong with this broad? So then after that,
Because
OnlyFans.
I'm the idiot who doesn't know who CJ is.
so in their defense, they were a lot younger. So as soon as like the commercial break came, I like walked over because we had to get over to Howie's autograph signing. So as I like walk over, CJ standing there, I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, did you hear me woo for you? And he's like, I did, and I gave him a big hug because I've run into him a few times over the years, including New Year's where I got him to kiss my cheek, and I feel like I said that in one of the other episodes.
I believe so.
I was
It,
with
like,
you
he
at
just
a bar
w-
and CJ was there. Where was that?
You were there?
Yes, I was there. And I was like,
Are you-
talk to him.
Music award show.
Could have been. I can't remember.
Were you there with Jen? With Howie was there too.
I think so.
Yeah, I was at the Sheridan.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and this like crazy lady's like, Howie's up there. I'm like, what? And I go up, and then Howie was at the bar, and CJ was there, and I was like, whoa, CJ. So I like went over.
I feel like you
you're
did.
I did say that story, so yeah.
Where you
Yeah.
name dropped everyone.
So
Like,
I've
he's
seen
gonna know who we are.
I've surprisingly have met CJ like 4 or 5 times over the years, and he was also at Nick's lunch
Yeah.
a few years ago, and again I gave him
But
a hug
again,
and whatever.
no one at that lunch
So-
knew who he was
so
except for you.
So this is and he just like
he was.
gives me hugs, I take pictures of them. I'm like,
Only
yay,
because of
CJ.
Chinzia.
He's in Toronto. Anyways, there's just something about CJ. I don't know what it is, but I
You say
very
you're
much enjoy
not
him.
mean.
So the point of this story is Diane has even met CJ at this point, had no friggin' clue he was in a boy band, and then it just randomly came up one day, and she's like, "What? CJ's in 3 Deep?" And we're like, "What are you
I know,
talking
we
about?"
don't understand what's going on.
It was fantastic. Anyways, good.
Listen, if you knew who CJ was, if you were at that Nick lunch or you were at any
We also met them
event
at Roller Gardens. Yes,
That's
Any of
that's
them.
where
That's
we
where
met
we
them.
met.
Yes,
Yes.
Roller Gardens.
and you knew who CJ was, and you knew that he was a member of 3 Deep, and I'm the idiot, please comment below. I feel like that Chinzia is just a random wealth of knowledge about all things boy band.
historian.
And that Sophia, because she's known Chinzia for a while, by default knows these things.
I
But-
followed Young and the Restless, Joshua Morrow. If you don't know them, obviously that's how I knew who they were.
Other fun story. I don't remember if I told you this when I was having lunch with Howie and CJ and George and a couple of other people that we were talking about how Howie had gone golfing with Joshua Morrow in somewhere in the States, I guess. So as they're golfing, it's like on one of those golf courses that have all those like $1 million houses around there. So they're like golfing, and then Joshua Moore was like, "Oh, Wayne Gretzky has a house up there," and Howie's like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" Blah blah blah. So then all we hear is Joshua, and he was like, "What?" So he like runs, and Wayne Gretzky ran onto the course. He's like, "Nick Newman," and then he's like, "Wayne Gretzky," and then they like took a picture together, and he said it was like the funniest. How
That's
it was
amazing.
like the funniest thing ever because they were both so excited to meet each other.
Aww.
And then Wayne was like, "Oh, my wife watches your show all the time. I know who you are." Blah blah
I
blah.
watch hockey.
Can I read off this Wikipedia article? So it says their first album, Yes, 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 No, 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 was released in 1999 and featured their biggest hit, the single Into You, a top 10 hit on the Canadian charts. Their second album, Can't Get Over You, was released in 2001. Among the artists they collaborated with was Michi Me on a track from their first album, and with Howie Doro on a track from their second albm.
Oh, really?
What song it was, I'm not sure.
Although largely unknown in the U.S., they are one of the most successful Canadian boy bands of the era, with a sizable and young female fan base.
I guess that's why I thought more of them were Canadian, because they like obviously had more
Again,
success in Canada.
YTV's hit list would play
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So
That's where I found them as well.
We gotta bring that shit back, man. That's so
YTV
good.
list.
we
the
learned a
jam.
lot of Canadian and in Canada. I know this doesn't happen in the States, but there's a thing called CanCon. So on the radio, you have to play 35% Canadian content. That's what CanCon stands for. I don't know if that's the same on TV as well. And it could have been because it was like
can't be.
it was a music show, right? So maybe because it was a music show, they had to show so much Canadian, or maybe it was just easier for them to find the Canadians to interview, or maybe they were just promoting their own like stuff, right? So that's why I feel like we saw a lot of Canadian boy bands as well.
I have no idea. I really don't know.
Okay,
So
Anyway,
we're
next
just
boy
gonna
band.
we're just gonna look up what song they did with Howie to see if we recognize it or not.
I'm gonna guess I don't.
Okay, so continue talking to see if we can find this information.
Oh,
That is
okay.
an old ass website. It's like blue clouds and like purple text. Oh, sweet.
Oh, jeez.
Keep talking, please.
Okay, do you want to switch to another boy band then while we wait for this?
We can come back to this.
Okay.
So the last boy band that I have here is probably one that I'm gonna guess most of you have never heard of. I'll be honest, before I knew Chinzia, I've never heard of these people. But no, if that is
there's
not.
two that I'm thinking of, so I don't know who this will be. Okay, go.
Oh, okay. Apparently, there's one that I didn't even know. I won't even know till today. This is VIP.
Yay!
It's just my luck.
She's got someone else in mind.
It's just my luck. It happens all the time. Does it have to be this way for me?
Hell yeah, because it's just my luck. They're
So,
from
yeah.
Barrie, Ontario.
Woohoo!
The VIP actually stands for Voices in Public. And it
Not cool
has
as VIP.
Marty Beecroft, Glenn Coulson, who I've actually met several times as well, Joe Heslip, and Peter Luciano.
Hold up. I thought it was 3.
There's 4 of them.
When did the 4th one come in?
There's always been 4 of them.
There's the guy that looks like a turtle.
Yes.
Then there's, I guess, 3 more. Okay.
Define looks like a turtle.
Well,
He had a hat, I think.
He
Was
had
it-
a hat that he wore constantly,
yeah,
know.
like
It was
you know,
just-
like those like flat looking hats that like
like a newsboy
like
cap,
newsies. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
and that made him look like a turtle.
yeah, it was.
It's,
yeah.
Don't even worry about it,
Oh
Lydia.
God, is he gonna like? Oh, this episode is gonna bite me in the ass, and when we have him on, he'll be like, "You said I look like
So
a turtle."
2 of them, I can't remember which 2 at the moment. I know it was Glenn Coulson for sure, possibly Marty. Okay, sorry. First of all, Lydia and I met this band,
Yes.
and they were at Limeridge Mall, which is right beside us. So they had come to do kind
I
of
can
like
see it from the
a
window.
performance and autograph signing. And so we were in line and we got pictures and stuff. And then Cable 14 was there, and I wanted to be on TV. So then I took my autographed picture, and I knew they were there, and I like kissed the picture to make it look like, oh, I really like VIP. And then I was on TV. So there you go.
So I would just like to say, for no one can see this, but the motion that Chinzia made when she said, "I really wanted to be on TV," so I thought she was going to say, "Lifted up my shirt," like just
no.
the motion she made with her hands. I was like, "Oh my God, you flashed VIP," but
I
apparently not.
definitely did not. No.
VIP on my tits.
But no, it was cute. So they were good. They've won some awards and stuff as well.
Most coffees ordered at Starbucks.
They won a Genie Award
A Genie
What
Award.
is a genie?
for Best Original Song in 2000 for One Thing to Say. And apparently they had a song in Jacob Tutu Meets the Hooded Fang. So
Oh, there you go.
they also released a Christmas album called Let It Snow in 2004. So they also released a Christmas album
not know.
before Backstreet Boys. So
Oh, burn.
Ouch, ouch.
yes, okay, sorry. So Glenn, Marty, and Joe, after they broke up, released. They decided to go country, and they released a country album called After Tuesday in 2006. And then Joe and Marty did some stuff for a film called Dark Rising, and then Joe is Heslip, right? Yes. So Joe is a music teacher, and Marty and Glenn Coulson, right? Is that his name? Totally blanking out right now. Yes.
Spring, what are you doing?
Anywho,
Not talking into the microphone.
I'm
and she's
sorry.
just looking at her phone.
I
and
am not.
reading. I'm sorry, everyone.
so they actually like work and have actual jobs, and they're music teachers and things like that. One of them is a lawyer, and but they've also worked with some country artists as well. So and that's where I ran into 2 of them a few years ago when I used to have work for a country station. So I guess it was over 10 years ago. And they were at, we were having like a Rising Star competition, and they were there. And I was like handing out things, and I like stopped at their table to hand it out. I'm like, oh my God, VIP. And I was not expecting to see them there. So it was good.
Were they like, hey? Or they're like,
No, they were hey, they were cool. I
Okay,
think I
cool.
took a picture with them. And then I ran into another one at a concert, like a country concert, like years later. And I was like, hey, and he remembered me from the other thing. So
Aw.
Okay,
That
so
was
please
fun.
tell me what the other Canadian boy band you thought I was going to mention
wait,
was.
Sophia. Yeah,
Okay,
something
can I
to
just
say.
read what I found out? So I didn't find out what the song was, but it does say here. They also have been working with Howie D of the Backstreet Boys on a song that he wrote for our CD that the girls will love. Howie has been a good friend to 3 Deep, and we do enjoy having him contribute to our CD. I got to meet him in Toronto. Then we hooked up again in Florida at the
Hooked up. Oh.
At the Miss US Teen pageant this past summer. He was a judge along with our manager, Jeff Mullen. Jeff has known Howie and the Backstreet Boys for a long time now, as I guess he worked with them in the studio when they first got started back in 1994, making demos or something like that. But we couldn't be happier with the collaborative efforts on songs for this new CD, as I know that this is by far our best recording. Yeah, so it didn't really say the song. Yeah.
Who wrote this?
Just some, I'm assuming some fan
Oh,
on some website.
great.
It is
Thank you
a
for the
tripod
information.
site.
Sorry.
Are you
Oh,
serious?
source is 3deep.com. Thanks to Stephanie, head of 3Deep Fan Club, for info.
See, they had a fan club.
And
Okay, so the other.
Look at this website though, for real. Like, look at it for a second.
Okay, guys, this is like old time.
yeah, this is like the most sad thing I've ever seen. Like, back in the day, this would have been cool, but
Yeah.
this is like, yikes.
Yep. Okay, sorry.
So
Continue.
the band that I wanted to chat about, which is very hard to find information on
we
it,
saw this video in the morning, right?
but we did watch it this morning, and it is a band called ID, which stood for Identically Different, and they had a hit song which was Busted. Busted, that's the end. I never want to see my face again. So I can't find any information about them all because, again, they only had, I believe, only the one CD. I know one of the guys in the band used to play Shaggy at Canada's Wonderland. So
Cool.
Well, Chris used to play. At
I know. So I was
Universal
like, this is like the
Studios.
Canadian version of this. So the most successful member of ID,
There's literally no information.
I know it's very hard to find. I found it before, but it's very hard. Jesse LaBelle. So Jesse LaBelle, after ID
he,
broke
like,
up, he's
became-
a pop country singer.
Yeah.
So
I've heard
Why?
That's
Why is the
hilarious.
transition from pop to country such a normal thing?
I feel like because the subject matter of the songs is very similar, it's just a different, like, tempo and tone of music.
Like even like the
it's about storytelling and things like that.
The fan base is different, but wouldn't you agree that the subject matter of the songs is usually pretty similar? Like, boy band songs are all about love. A lot of country songs are about love, and then the other country songs are about, like, you know, having a good time. And then, like, what are boy band songs about? Party, you know, like things like that. It's like that's
Yeah.
why the transition is easy, I think.
So if you can find the video, I mean, we should post these videos tomorrow or today or something.
if you
So we'll post
want
it. So so it's called Busted, and you'll see one extremely good-looking member of that band. Like, he just stands out as being the most extremely good-looking person. That is Jesse LaBelle. It actually
Maybe
says
that's why when you guys were watching that video, I was like, that guy looks familiar.
Right?
Yeah.
I felt the same.
So he's done a lot of stuff, and interestingly enough, he apparently remember back in the day they had Speaker's Corner.
Yes.
So he performed at Speaker's Corner, and it actually caught the attention of upcoming singer Fifi Dobson. So she reached out to him, and he invited her to write songs and perform with the band. So none of those collaborations actually made it to Fifi's album, but he was able to get contacts through that. So he met up with some other people and got signed to Arista Records and things like Arista Records, and then he went to Nashville in 2014 and he started doing stuff there. So he's open for a bunch of people, including Keith Urban. And
If you're not from the area and you have no idea what Speaker's Corner is, there used to be this place in downtown Toronto where
Queen Street.
on Queen Street where the Much Music and now
CTV
it's
building.
CTV headquarters, where anyone could walk in from the street, and I think you had to put like $1 in.
I don't
or
remember. Was it
something.
free or $1?
I feel like it was like a
It might have been $1.
dollar.
I think you had to put $1 in, and then you
You
could
could, like,
record
for
like
a minute.
1 minute, whatever you wanted. So some people would sing, and some people would like do
Rant like a
angry
crazy
rants,
person.
and
Or like, look, I'm looking for my love or something.
there would be like a lot of drunk people, like
they would play them.
you know?
And then they would
They
play
would
it
play them,
once a
yeah.
week on a show, right? Wasn't it?
Every single one they played.
Not every single one.
No,
I'm
they
sure they
just
would have
show- I think
edited
they
things.
picked and chose.
But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Bare Naked Ladies also got their start there.
Wow.
The
Yes,
band,
because
not
they-
actual naked ladies.
Yes, they did play.
They played If I Had $1 Million, I think. And I
think
think that
so.
actually got played as well, if I'm not mistaken.
But then Bare Naked Ladies definitely went in and did things in Speaker's Corner after they
after
were
they were
popular
famous
as
as
well.
well?
So I don't know about that, but
Are they considered a boy band?
no.
Why?
They play their own instruments.
Oh, right. Okay. Good point.
They don't dance. That's
And they don't dance, and they don't wear matching outfits.
One Direction.
And I feel like they aged out of being a boy band. Like by the time they were started, they were already too old.
Yeah, fair.
That's true. Yeah.
And I feel like they had male and female fans, like pretty consistent. And they're more like,
Yeah, fair.
I don't know.
No one's talking into the mic anymore. It's just
Sorry.
me. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
so yes, wait, was there any other bands that we thought of this morning? I think those were all of them. So those are like the main Canadian boy bands. If you are a member of one of these bands or were a member of one of these bands and you kind of want to get in contact with us and talk about your experiences and be interviewed, we now have a working phone line. And you can email us at boybandbreak@gmail.com or hit us up on any socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @boybandbreak. And happy Canada Day, everyone.
Happy Canada Day. Woo woo.
And thanks for taking a break with us, guys.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.